Okay, yeah, so for today, we're going to really cover kind of on-page and technical SEO.
Okay.
And, and later on in the session, if we get to it today, we're going to go over kind of some beginner level conversion rate optimization things, which also impact your SEO. So kind of just to move in here, so on-page analysis, why does it matter? So typically when we're starting an SEO campaign, we first want to start with the keyword research because it's going to inform us on which phrases we should be optimizing our website for. It's often overlooked, but it's very important. And I've seen situations where if you're going after a keyword that's not very competitive, or this really isn't the case for your brand since you're in Denver, but if you're in a smaller market, just on-page SEO can get you to the page 1 of the search results. So that's why it is important. And there are a lot of differing views on a lot of the things that I'm going to cover today. I'm going to give you my input, but if you were to go and do your own research outside of the session, you'll notice that different SEOs say different things. But
Okay.
what I'm sharing is what I've seen in my experience and according to best practices. So what is on-page SEO? So it actually encompasses many different things. So first you have your page titles and your metadata, specifically your meta descriptions and your alt tags. It's your internal linking between different pages on your website, your headings and subheadings on your site, structured data, commonly called JSON LD schema, and then kind of how you're using your keywords within these different elements, specifically your title tags and meta descriptions. So first part, and I would say, I wouldn't say there's anything more important, all of this fits together. But if we're looking at, one of the prominent places to optimize for your on-page and for your keywords, I will look at your page titles. And these are commonly referred to as title tags. So when you hear page titles and title tags in SEO world, that's the same thing. So kind of just a quick example. I just took this, this snapshot from one of your search results. So your title tag is this wardrobe consulting career development life coaching. That's your title tag. Your meta description for this page is this snippet here. So Why Shoe Consulting specializes in wardrobe consulting, career development, and life coaching in Denver. So together, this package of skills would take you to and then it cuts it off. So
my SEO person did all that.
Okay, good. Yeah, there might be some things you want to update for your meta description, and we'll get into that in a few slides here, but title tag looks fine. So of course, I'm sure you're familiar with Yoast. We discussed it last time. One more thing, I will be using examples from my website because I know there might be some issues with Beaver Builder on your end, just to make sure we can go through these different topics efficiently.
Okay.
But yeah, so Yoast, if you are on WordPress, I see no reason why you shouldn't use Yoast to do this. Otherwise, you have to add these different elements manually. But I do understand that the Alpha Graphics website, I'm not sure of that platform, that backend, but hopefully there is some type of content management system where you can easily input title tags and meta descriptions.
I think on their blog, since it's WordPress, I'm pretty sure they have Yoast.
Okay, great.
I think that's where I even first heard about it. Their other one, I think they're on AEM, but I think they have issues with changing some of this stuff.
Okay.
But we're changing in January, so hopefully.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so first thing, how long should titles be? So if you want to get really specific, it's 600 pixels. Since no one can just measure that just by looking at a string of text, we recommend at least 50 to 60 characters, and the max is going to be 65 to 70. But if you stay within 50 to 60, you won't see issues where the title tag is cut off here.
Okay.
Now, So something that's kind of been going around in the SEO community is, you know, it really doesn't hurt you if you go over this limit. There have been tests where if you had a title tag that's 100 characters, if you including your SEO phrases within that 100 characters, it still benefits you. But, we're looking kind of at, how does it look? You would prefer not to have your title tag cut off. So still
Right.
recommended, try to be succinct and, stay within 50 to 60 characters.
Okay.
Um, so kind of just, a good best practice for your title tags. And this is going to go back to our keyword research we did last time. At the front of the title tag, you want to include your primary keyword. So we're looking at your homepage. That would be personal stylist Denver or
Uh-huh.
Denver personal stylist, whichever one you want to, if you want to include Denver at the beginning, which is maybe better kind of just for readability, that's great. If not, then that's great too. Both
Uh,
would, oh, good.
with that, so, and I know we talked about this last time, but could I do like personal stylist in Denver and it still comes up as personal stylist Denver, or does it have to be a variation of those three words?
So I would recommend, and I know we spoke about that in your actual content,
Uh-huh.
but for your title tag, try to get as close to this as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, but just for your title tag.
Okay.
So you will want to put that in at the beginning. Typically, whatever is at the beginning of the title tag gets more weight, so that's why you want to include your primary keyword there. And then for your secondary keyword, if you have room, try to incorporate one of your secondary keywords.
Okay.
And I wouldn't repeat phrases here. So if you have, let's say for your homepage, you use Denver personal stylist, and then for your secondary, I wouldn't include Denver again. I would just put hyphen fashion consultant.
Okay.
Yeah, you only need to include it once. And
Okay.
then kind of just as a standard convention, use a pipe symbol or, forward slashes to separate this from your business name. And I
Okay.
do recommend just for branding to include your business name in all of your title tags.
Okay.
Yep. So moving on, this is pretty much like the basic formula. But when you're looking at the search results, of course, you want to kind of make yourself stand apart from other search results.
Right.
So, some ideas, you can include action or descriptive verbs. So, verbs that are going to incite action. So call, shop, learn, those would maybe be some good phrases to use in your title tags. But again, it depends on the page and what is the goal of that page.
Okay.
Some other things, and we're talking about title tags, but this also applies for meta descriptions. Include like some things about costs. So I know for you, you offer a consult. So that
Uh-huh.
definitely would be something you would want to include in some of your title tags or meta descriptions. Urgency. So, maybe something that's appropriate for your service as, hey, there's 24 hours in a day. I only have so many slots that I can work with clients. So
Okay.
that would be, something good to incorporate. Authority. So if you want any awards, I think I saw on your bio page you worked with J. Crew. Is that right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of just, hey, I did this for a major retailer, so that's going to add credibility that you're able to help them.
Okay.
And then inform, detailed insights. So something I don't know, 40% of uh, maybe you can relate that to, whatever the goal is. So if they're trying to get a new job, once things open back up, you can say that 40% of HR professionals mention that how someone looks on their interview was a major factor
Okay.
into their decision. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of
Okay.
that on the top of my head, but yeah, if there is an opportunity to use some data, that always helps.
Okay. I had one where I saved a guy, like I got him a wardrobe and saved him like 65% on the
Oh
entire.
wow.
Like it was like 4 grand wardrobe. He spent like 1,500.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah,
So
that's perfect.
okay.
Yeah, people love saving money, so for sure. This is one thing I do commonly using like special characters. So it's all about the pattern interrupt. So if we go to the wardrobe consulting, some things that stand out for me, of course, this is dumb tag, but they're using a number here,
Uh-huh.
and then they're using a year. Nothing really stands out about this title tag. Um, yeah, these guys are using all caps where, you know, it's kind of like a personal preference. I tend not to, just because it's too much.
Yeah.
But if you kind of just use like title case, that's usually good enough.
Okay.
These guys, it's kind of sentence case, so it's definitely different than all of the others. So again, depending on your personal preference, that could be a good fit.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, try to incorporate percentage signs, pound signs. If your specific offers, if they're trademarked, you can add this little trademark symbol.
Okay.
There's some people, they don't even technically have the trademark, but they'll throw it in there anyway.
Okay.
No one would look it up really, so
Right.
it doesn't matter. Brackets, of course, and then quotes. So these are just some examples I just pulled from my websites. Like I said, I really like using the pound symbol, and I'm a big fan of the 2 forward slashes to kind of set
Okay.
myself apart. Kind of similar convention here. But again, some of this is also just your personal preference.
Okay.
Um, kind of just looking at, this is an e-commerce website. So you can kind of see they've used quotes here. They use specific kind of product specs. So
Yeah.
these are shoelaces. Kind of the same idea here, kind of just using a combination of things.
Sure.
More of the same here. Let's see. Yeah, and then I kind of mentioned about all caps, but you can kind of use a mix of both if you really want to like emphasize a word. So you see here they use all caps for best, and then
Okay.
again they use brackets here.
Okay.
And then I thought this one was kind of interesting. It's kind of like what are those? So it's kind of like a hashtag.
Yeah.
So if you have like any hashtags that are related to any of your services, I think those would probably be more appropriate if you for your blog articles.
Yeah.
You can use like a popular hashtag that people may be looking for.
Okay. And I know Alpha Graphics has a bunch, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, Now, title tags, like I said, there is definitely some SEO benefit. If you're incorporating your keywords, that can definitely help add more relevancy for those keywords when Google crawls or reviews your website. Now, one way that title tags can help, and the same goes with meta descriptions, is that it can help with your click-through rate over time.
Okay.
So kind of going back to this, and let's do something that's a little more relevant for you. Zoom out here a bit. So each of these search results, Spencer, each placement, so number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on, there's an average click-through rate that Google, of all the data they have on web user behavior,
Uh-huh.
that they expect that that particular listing should achieve a certain click-through rate.
Okay.
So it changes and varies from industry to industry. But the key thing to know there is if, let's say, dump tag, they're at number 1, if their click-through rate for an extended time is lower than what Google expects for that particular placement, in this case number 1, then it's a good chance that they're going to push the dump tag listing down. On a reverse, if let's say number 2 or number 3, if they are getting a better click-through rate than what's slotted for their position, then that's going to help push their they're ranking up.
Okay.
So, of course, the first goal is to get to the #1 page, but the second goal, especially when you get here at the top and the competition is stiffer, is to look at, how can we improve our click-through rate or some of these other elements to, add positive user signals.
Okay.
And so incorporating some of these things, we just went through, those can help with your click-through rate.
Okay.
Yep. And so if you ever wanted to see this, I know we don't have a ton of data for the for your website, but as that data starts to populate, you'll start seeing, your click-through rate data, and you'll kind of know, okay, we're on an upward trend. That's great. Or we're on a downward trend. We may need to go and kind of revisit some of our page titles and meta descriptions.
Okay.
Okay. So that wraps up page titles. Did you have any questions on that?
No, I think that made sense.
Okay. And I'm going through the deck right now because I just want to make sure we understand the basics, but we will be looking at Yoast, so you can kind of see this in action here in a bit. So moving on to meta descriptions, and we already went through the example, it's the little snippet here at the bottom. Now, meta descriptions, they can be tricky. You don't have complete control over what Google uses here for your snippet. And usually you'll see a lot, even on some of my websites, where Google might think that a snippet of text on your page is more relevant to the user search than what you specified as the meta description. So there, you can influence it, but of course you don't control Google, so you can't control what they pull or what the search engine pulls from your page. But there are a few ways, a few things to consider here. So first, include your keywords. So if we go back to your home page, I would definitely try to, and this is where you would add like those filler words. So, you would try to add personal stylist in Denver, or your Denver personal stylist, however you want to work that out. But the key thing there is that those keywords are actually going to be bolded in the search results. So in this case, our search query is wardrobe consulting Denver. So we can see right away consultant for dumb tag, for elements of image, consultant, wardrobe consultant, and fashion consultant, all bolded in Denver as well. So that's going to really help, kind of going back to click-through rate, that's going to really help kind of make your search listing get more attention than some of the others. So best practice is to use your keywords, make them each unique. So I don't see this as an issue with your website because right now you don't have a ton of pages. But let's say if you had a product catalog of, 1,000 different products, it can really be a pain in the butt to go through and update each of those meta descriptions.
Right.
But, when it is possible, try to make sure that they're unique and that they're relevant for the page instead of using, what you'll see a lot of times, SEOs will get lazy and just copy and paste it from page to page. And that's really not the best way to go. And then lastly, and this is, kind of looking at enticing that person to click through, include some type of call to action. So for you, schedule a consult will be relevant. You also may want to include a click here or learn more if it's a blog post, but try to include some call to action to get them to take that next step, which is to click on your listing.
Okay.
Yep. So just some examples. So again, unfortunately, Google for my pages, they have pulled what they wanted. So, if I'm looking at my website, I would go and see, okay, if the click-through rate isn't great for these pages, how can we modify the meta description to get it to show what I want it to show.
Okay.
So just kind of, you have to go back and forth to see what's going to work.
Okay.
But going back to our e-commerce example, so a few things here. Again, the bold text, something else he's also using kind of bolded or capitalizing free because people like free shipping. He's also including a product price. So kind of going back to the pattern interrupt, we have all of this text here, then it breaks it with the number and the dollar symbol. And the
Yeah.
same thing here at the end. And then he also has the call to action here at the end.
Okay.
So that's good. Again, much of the same. Yeah, more of the same. Yeah, and so kind of what this really is the same as we said for the title tags. Kind of the same applies for your meta descriptions. Just kind of try to incorporate urgency where possible. So limited time for sessions or limited free consults would be something relevant for White Shoes Consulting. Again, this may be where you want to include your authority, so your past experience. You're able to save a client 65%, on his budget. So those are all very good things to include in your meta description.
So then how often, like how long should you leave these as is and how long should you be like changing them?
So really, if you set them once, you typically don't have to go back in and change them. I would probably just do a review maybe every 4 to 5 months. Google's always changing their algorithm. So you just want to make sure that, what you set for in May of 2020, it's still the same in December of 2020.
But it's still relevant.
Yeah. And then, one other thing to consider there, if you are, creating new offers, so maybe, let's just say once travel opens back up, air travel opens back up, you'll travel to the client's location
Okay.
for, in certain situations, but that's a limited time thing. You go in there, you say, hey, we'll travel to you. And then once you're no longer doing that, then take it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so kind of just to summarize that, one, doing, making sure that you're staying up to date with Google's algorithm changes. And number two, as your business changes, as your offers change, you want to make sure that your meta descriptions fit what's going on in your business.
What's the best way to stay up to date on the algorithm changes?
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways. I would say out of all the publications out there on SEO, Search Engine Journal are usually really kind of on pace with the, what's going on with the Google algorithm.
Okay.
So maybe just follow that, maybe just add it as a, if you use Google News, add them as a, a publication that you follow because, they're guys out there, that's all they do is test and test and test. But of course, you don't have time to do that. You're running a business, so it's best just to kind of use Search Engine Journal as your source. Another way, and hopefully you don't experience this, you're going to notice that your rankings or your traffic just drops overnight. That's usually a telltale sign that something happened with the Google algorithm,
Okay.
and it's time to take a closer look.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
but hopefully it doesn't get to that point.
I know. Let's hope not.
Yeah. So the next thing here, heading tags, alt tags, and internal and external links. So these are other on-page elements that are important for your SEO, and it's important that we go over them and make sure that we are incorporating them in our on-page SEO implementation.
Okay.
So before I get into that, any questions on metas or page titles?
I don't think so.
Okay. So just some best practices for heading tags. So I guess an offline way to think of heading tags, think about, maybe when you're in high school, you had to do an outline for your teacher before you wrote a paper. So heading tags are pretty much the HTML version of that, where, at the top, you're going to have your heading 1. So that's pretty much the title of the page. And that's not to be confused with your title tag. That's something different. But your heading 1 is usually going to be the actual title of the blog article or the name of the service if it's a services page.
Okay.
Under that, you're going to have your heading 2s, and these are kind of going back to your outline. these are the main points that you want to convey on your page. So usually you're going to use these more in blog posts, but they also might be appropriate for your product pages.
Okay.
And then your heading 3 tags. And again, I don't see you using these for product pages, but definitely blog pages where, let's say under heading 2, so maybe under your first point, you're going to have different bullets or different subpoints that you want to hit on. And then you would want to format those with heading 3s. And this actually goes up to heading 6. Unless you're building out a very detailed content piece, I'm talking thousands of words, I really don't see the need for anything past heading 3.
Okay.
So just a heads up. So number 2 here, kind of piggybacking on number 1, it breaks up the text. So if I just had a text of content, or I'm sorry, a page of content, and it all looked the same, there was no differentiation as far as formatting, that'll be kind of hard to read, right?
Right.
So heading tags, they allow you to kind of make it more user-friendly and more scannable if someone doesn't have time to read your full page of content.
Okay.
Number 3, and going back to our keyword research from session 1, heading tags are where you want to include your target keywords. So what I would recommend is that for your heading 1 tag, try to at all possible include your primary keyword.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be this alone. So let's just say you're going to use personal stylist Denver as the primary keyword for your homepage. In your heading 1 tag, you can include that phrase and then other things in it. So let's say, for example, you did Denver personal stylist, focus on helping you achieve your ideal look. Yeah, that's just off the head again, but
in like a sentence, not just throw the words in there.
right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you do have flexibility in your heading 1 tag, but if all possible, try to use your primary keyword there. Now for your heading 2s and heading 3s, this is where you want to incorporate your secondary keywords. So kind of similar to the heading 1s, you can add these and then also add supporting text around it so that it's readable.
Okay.
So yeah, so highly recommended that you include your secondaries and heading 2s and heading 3s.
Okay.
And one thing, and this is something that in the SEO community professionals go back and forth on, I recommend only using one heading tag. If anything, it will let you know immediately what is the main topic of the page. But there are other SEOs that say you can use multiple heading ones, but I prefer to kind of keep the hierarchy, the right hierarchy, so that it's easy to read.
Okay.
Now, this number 5 here is kind of going into that. You'll see this sometimes when, especially for brand new websites where the CSS isn't quite right, where your heading 1 tag, that text has a smaller font size than your heading 3, which isn't very, intuitive, because your heading 1 should be the largest font size, followed by your heading 2, followed by your heading 3. Now, if you see that, that's something that you should connect with your developer on to make sure that your CSS is set up in a way where all of the sizing is correct.
Okay.
What I see often as website owners, if they don't know much about SEO, they'll just want a certain snippet of text to be bigger than the rest, so they'll use a heading tag, which instead they should actually be modifying their CSS. So if you do see things like that on your website, I didn't see anything like that stood out.
Okay.
Just connect with your developer to have them modify the CSS.
Okay.
Number 6, make them interesting. So in this case, kind of going back to what we mentioned about the title tags and meta descriptions, you want to make them pop. So again, someone comes to your website, you want to have a snippet of text that's going to catch their attention. And it's going to, go, towards your personal style or the branding. So if you kind of want to go for humor, then try to incorporate humor into your heading tags. That's a great way to catch people's attention. If you kind of want to, sometimes this works well for brands. If you kind of want to be a little bit sarcastic, incorporate that into your headings. But again, that's kind of where you want to incorporate your own branding and style for your marketing. And then number 7, and this is, fairly important for your space, fashion space. You want to reverse engineer pages that are getting featured snippets. And so when I did a search, I would assume this might be something of interest for White Shoes Consulting. I did a search for top men fashion summer 2020, and this is a featured snippet. So you can kind of see, and I'll actually open up the live page. So I got a lot of things here. Yep. So we see here, this is at the very top. So why do you think it would be a good goal to capture this space? Like why would that be important?
Well, because it takes up most of the page.
Exactly. Big thing about marketing online is if you can get the most attention, then that's going to be good for your brand. And like you said, it's taking up a lot of real estate. And then it has the images, which, is another way that you're capturing people's attention. Now, to get this, or to position your page to get this, what I suggest doing is reverse engineering how they may be getting this featured snippet.
Okay.
Now, the Trend Spotter, they're a good authority website within the space, but you can, at least from a technical and on-page standpoint, set up your pages so that as you continue to build authority in the future, you would be in a good place to capture these featured snippets.
Okay.
Now, what I suggest, just go into the page. This is going to take a while to load. Okay. So we really don't need that to load, but you can right-click here and go to View Page Source.
Okay.
And that's going to take you to a page that looks like this.
Right.
Okay, so a lot of code. Are you familiar with source code?
Not super, but I know how to get into here.
Okay, cool. So what you want to do here is look at, go back to your snippet and look at kind of what is the text that's showing up here. So let's just say our first little snippet here is cross body bags. So if we do a control find bags, okay? So a few things, and I'll zoom in here because I know there's a lot. I think I lost where I was on. There we go. Okay, so if we zoom in here, we'll kind of get some insights on how they're structuring their page to possibly get that featured snippet. Okay. So each one of the items, this is a numbered list. Each one of the items are in a heading 2 tag.
Right.
So if this was a featured snippet that you wanted to go for, a few things. Number 1, you should try to create a listicle article with number items. Number 2, you should try to wrap each of those number items into heading 2 tags.
Okay.
And then right under that, for any text under that, you want to make sure that it's wrapped in paragraph tags.
Okay.
Okay. And I know that can kind of get, we're more into the HTML side of things, but, as I mentioned in the first session, a lot of, the secret to success of SEO is look at which websites are doing well and kind of reverse engineering what they're doing.
Okay.
Yep. And so, and that's how I would do it. Just go through each, item on this list here and just kind of try to find that in the code and then just replicating that on your page.
So, with that said, I'm trying to think. So for the header to paragraph, is there like or even for all these headers, and maybe you touched on it, I just forgot, but like, is there a character limit or can they be as long as you want?
Yeah, so for headers, they can be as long as you want, but, with most of these things, just try to be tactful. So there's usually, kind of an extreme example. There would be no reason to include an entire paragraph as a heading tag.
Okay.
That wouldn't make sense. But usually especially for like a listicle article, it's going to be like these quick phrases here.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of just looking at this on the front end, this is the heading 2, and this is the paragraph tag.
Are those things hard to edit within WordPress?
Not at all. So what we're going to do kind of once we get through all these elements, we're going to go into WordPress and I'm going to show you how to do it.
I
So
love
yeah,
it.
yeah, WordPress makes things very easy.
Okay.
And then just kind of something else, you'll notice that they're including these images under each numbered item. So again, kind of informing, how you would approach this. You might want to consider adding images under each number item.
Okay. All my blogs, I typically add images like that, like under each section. So I'm
Nice,
following that.
nice, nice. Yeah, and that's a great. So going back to our example here, or our deck.
Okay, so I guess that gives me a question. So when I'm writing my blog,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's bigger, but like keyword wise, so am I using like the main keyword that I want on my homepage, or like should each blog contain their own kind of specific keywords?
Good question. That's jumping ahead into one of our next sessions, but I'll go ahead and answer. So for your pages that are already on your website,
Uh-huh.
if you go through this exercise, you should already know which keywords you're going after.
Right.
I think what you're asking, let's say next week you want to write a new blog article,
Uh-huh.
so how you would go about it. So there's a few ways. Few ways to tackle this. So number one, if you know kind of the general topic that you want to go after, that, so tell me maybe what's something that's trending in the fashion world right now?
Right now it would be we're moving into summer stuff, so like camp shirts are popular.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would do, look at camp shirts. So to kind of give you how I would go about it. So we did camp shirts. And what I'm going to assume here is that it's going to come up with a lot of product pages.
Yeah.
Yep. So Macy's and a lot of, Amazon, a lot of other stuff. What I like to do is go here. So add a special command called NURL,
Okay.
colon, and then put in blog.
Okay.
And basically what this is going to do is only return results that have blog in the URL. So you're going to get blog articles.
Okay.
And let's see what comes up here. So again, introducing the camp shirt and dress pattern. So that could be a topic idea. Camp shirts, you can pretty much go down a list, and this is a great way to get topic ideas as well.
Yeah.
So once you're sure about which keyword you're going after, what I would do then is plug these particular URLs into SEMrush. So
Okay.
similar to what we did here in the first session. So just plugging in. So we went through your competitors and plug in those URLs. Look at what keywords these URLs are ranking for. And that can be a great way to start. Okay, so I know the number one search result, I know that they're ranking for these phrases.
Okay.
So these are probably phrases that I should incorporate into my blog article.
My blog. Okay, good to know.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, great. So where were we?
Header 10, H2.
Yeah, so that wraps up pretty much everything for header tags. Like I said, in a bit here, I will show you an example in WordPress, but did you have kind of any questions on the theory part?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so moving on to alt tags.
So to get the featured snippet then, like if I want something featured like that, I have to set it up kind of how they did, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
exactly. And I don't want to downplay. It is very difficult to get those snippets
Okay.
because, like we talked about last time with the domain authority, and yeah,
All places in.
so basically, what kind of setting up the heading structure, you're pretty much laying the foundation for you know, years from now, months from now, once you start building authority for your
Yeah.
website, you're going to be positioned to get that feature snippet.
Okay.
But more times than not, you're going to be going against, some big websites for these.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah. So alt tags. So alt tags, kind of, taking SEO out of the equation. Alt tags, they are a sign of accessibility and usability for your website. And anytime you do something on your site to make it more user friendly, whether that's making it load faster, making it mobile friendly for mobile phones, it's going to have a really good SEO benefit for your site.
Okay.
Now, the way that alt tags work, these are attributes that are attached to each of the images on your website. And originally, when the internet was moved out to the kind of the public, alt tags were originally for people who may be visually impaired and they couldn't see the actual image on the page.
Okay.
So that title, whatever you had in that alt tag attribute, it will tell them what that image is about.
Okay.
Okay. So, once SEO became more important and people started optimizing, the alt tag is also a place to include your primary keyword or your secondary keyword. Now, one thing to avoid with your alt tags is doing what's called keyword stuffing. So that means your title tag, your meta description, your headings, and your alt tag. You're doing Denver personal stylist, Denver personal stylist, Denver personal stylist. That's just, it's a little overboard. So that's why you kind of want to mix things up with your primary keyword and your secondary keywords. So the best practice for your alt tag is to do the close your eyes test. So think about an image on your web page, on your page, and think about if you were to close your eyes, in a very succinct phrase, how you would describe that image.
Okay.
So let's see here. Let's go to your site. So let's say, okay, let's use your your personal picture. So if you were to close your eyes, outside of course your name, what would you want to include in that alt tag for someone who can't see your image?
That's related to my site.
Yes. So what is the actual phrase you would use here?
Like professionally dressed man.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, Now, kind of considering the purpose of your website, you want to consult people, with their wardrobes or some component of their fashion. So, kind of thinking, going back to that. So, professionally dressed man, but who are you? Like, what are you like? What service are you providing?
Like styling services.
Great. So, that's a good next step. So, kind of help you out here.
Uh-huh.
I think a good alt tag for this image would be Spencer Boyce, White Shoes Consulting, personal stylist in Denver.
Oh, so you can kind of do that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now let's try it one more time. So let's go to your wardrobe audit page. try to have all my tabs open
Well,
beforehand, but I know.
even sometimes my site is just weird and loads funny. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Okay, so I'll let you try this one. So kind of thinking about what this image describes and the purpose of this page, what do you think would be a good alt tag to use here?
So, okay, so question on this one. So purpose of the page or purpose of the section?
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, so actually purpose of this section, since this is
Okay.
image, yeah.
Okay. So I'd probably say something because it's tied with wardrobe audit. So I would say something about, let's see, like White Shoe Consulting can help you go through your closet. I don't know, something like that. Audit your closet.
Okay. Okay, so two things there. Number one, try to make it like a phrase. You don't want a complete sentence
Okay.
because you want to make it as succinct as possible.
Okay.
Number two, try to incorporate your keyword here. So in this case, it would be wardrobe audit or wardrobe auditing.
Okay.
So you want to try again?
Yeah. So keep it succinct. I know, because like, is it bad to say White Shoe Consulting? Like, because I don't want to stuff. So is that stuffing all of them by keeping White Shoe Consulting in it?
No, because that is your company name. So it's accepted that that is going to be on your website many times.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not an issue at all.
So like, could it just be like White Shoe Consulting, wardrobe audit, make your closet the best it can be?
Okay.
Or is that too not
Yeah,
friendly enough?
yeah, I think that would be a good meta description.
Okay.
So I would still make that shorter. But I think you're getting the gist of it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see, do you have a, I wonder what you're using now for it. Let's see.
Because I always wondered that. Like, I wondered if when I upload a file, like, should the file name, like, does that play into it at all? Or is it what you go and put in for these alt tags? Like, is that what's more important?
Great question. So yes, you should try to, typically my convention, I try to use some variation of my target keyword for that page or that section, and
Okay.
then also put in my company name.
Okay.
Yep. So let's see here. Uh, alt equals. So sometimes it's difficult to look at this from the front end, but if you just kind of wanted to check,
Uh-huh.
you can kind of just come in here and look for the alt is kind of where this tag is being placed or what's being
Okay.
placed. So let's see, might be able to do it this way. Okay. So we did that. Yep. So yes, I just did a little trick there. So if you right click, if you're in Google Chrome and you go to expect, if you're ever wondering, kind of just want a quick look at what you're using for an alt tag or what you're using for the heading tag, you can kind of just come in here. You'll pretty much go right to this section of the code.
Okay.
So for this one, it looks like you're, doesn't look like it's specified. So
Okay.
yeah, so I would make sure to kind of just go through here and add those alt tags.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, I think you got the gist of it there. So yeah, so kind of another best practice, keep it short. So I would even say 125 characters is a bit too long, but there might be certain situations where the name of your product or service is just, it has a long name. So
Okay.
again, don't stuff keywords. The exception being your company or your brand name, because it's expected that that's going to be on your site many times. Don't use images as text. I mean, this is more of an old school thing, but You never want to replace what should be text as an image because, I'll get to this here in a bit, but Google, while they have improved their ability to understand what's being shown in an image, there is still kind of a ways to go as far as, getting to a granular level. And I'll get into that here in the next slide. Again, sometimes this is, I see website owners there include image of or picture of, but it's assumed that it's an image. Otherwise, it wouldn't have alt text. So you don't need to include any of those.
Okay.
Yep. And so overall, you want to kind of incorporate alt text into your on-page SEO because depending on the searches or keywords that you're going after, this could help improve your visibility on your search results, depending on the search. So in this case, I Google how to wear cufflinks. So if you scroll down here, that's where actually, oh, I know why. Here we go to all. So just looking at this, I would probably prioritize a video, but if we scroll down here, we see that there are also images.
Right.
So when you add those alt tags, so let's just say you had a article about wearing cufflinks, added alt tags about how to wear cufflinks or variations of those phrases, you position those images to show up here.
Okay.
Yeah. So going back to
if you click on those images, are you able to see what they wrote for them?
Actually, yeah, we'll have to drill down a bit here, but let's see. So
because I love stealing from other people.
Right. Right. So yeah, if you click through from the search result page, it'll take you to the image search.
Okay.
Then from there, so actually two things here. You can see what they're saving the image as, like the file name. So you can actually see, so whoever uploaded this image, this is what they're using for the file name.
Okay.
So something that, I'm sure but someone who's not familiar with the topic is about French cuffs. So that might be a phrase that you want to include in your keyword optimization.
Okay.
So that's the file name, but yeah, you can actually just click through here. Depending on how long the content is, you might have to just kind of look for that specific image.
Okay.
So let's see. Yeah, so this was it, right? So kind of what we just did on your website, go to right click and go to inspect. And then just make sure, just click this little arrow icon and just click that.
Okay.
Then you'll just kind of have to look through this, but you'll see here, and they're actually using a longer alt text series of images showing how to wear cufflinks with a French cuff shirt.
Okay.
Now think about it. If you weren't able to see that image, if you close your eyes, that tells you exactly what that image is about.
Okay.
And then you'll notice they're not using their company name. So, I think that is another one of those things that's kind of personal preference. It's something I do because I love incorporating branding in my SEO as much as possible. But you might decide that, hey, I don't want to do that part of what Leonard said, so I'm just going to include the keyword.
Cool. Okay.
Good.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no worries. So moving on. So Michael Jordan taking a jump shot over Reggie Miller. So what I mentioned about Google is getting better at understanding what's in an image. So the way Google would read this image would be basketball player shooting, player defending him. What Google is not able to do as of now, maybe this changes in the future, is to actually look at this image or scan this image and recognize that, hey, this is Michael Jordan. Hey, this is Reggie Miller. Michael Jordan plays for the Chicago Bulls. Reggie Miller plays for the Pacers. NBA, they're NBA players. At this point, Google cannot, get to that level of granularity. So this is where you would use your alt tags to help Google out, to give more information about the image.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay. So a little pop quiz here. So on the left-hand side, I have an image of a rooster.
Okay.
And on the right-hand side, these are different alt tags that we could use for this specific image. Now, based on what we just went over, what would you say is the best option here?
4.
4? Why?
Because it's explaining with my eyes closed what's happening in the picture.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So, and then kind of just for number 3, we're using, a part of our keyword here in the file name.
Okay.
So we already went over that, but that can definitely help with the image optimization.
Okay.
Okay. Now moving on to internal links. So when we're looking at links from your website, so very important to know this isn't link building. So link building is when another website links to your website. Right. Internal links and external links are links coming from your website. So the key difference there, internal links, you're linking to other pages on your website. External links, you're linking to other pages outside of your website. Okay. So to start off here with internal links, use them to make your content more useful. So let's say you did a blog article on camp shirts, but maybe somewhere in that blog article you mention, you have a mention of summer trends for 2020. And then you have a blog article, another blog article on summer fashion trends for 2020. Well, that's a logical reason why you would want to link from that camp shirts blog article to your, summer trends article. Okay. So really use internal links to link people to, or your website visitors to other relevant content on your site.
Okay, so it could be even a blog post that links to like one of my products.
Exactly, and
services.
Exactly. So we'll actually kind of talk about that here in the next slide. But yeah, internal links, you definitely want to incorporate them because they help with site navigation. So like you just mentioned, someone lands on your blog page, it's great they're reading your blog, but I'm sure you will want them to get to your product page. So adding that internal link allows them to do that. Content hierarchy, so it kind of helps organize your content, at a site-wide level, and we'll go into that into our next slide here. And then link equity. Link equity, basically, so when you're doing a link building campaign, you want to structure your internal links so that, let's say you get a really good backlink from the Rolling Stone.com, and they're linking to one of your blog posts. You want to structure your internal links so that even though that Rolling Stone blog article linked to your blog post, that's spreading link equity, in SEO we call it link juice, to your product page. And you do that with strategic internal links. Okay. With your internal links, you want to incorporate your target keywords. So here you can be very aggressive. So going back to the camp shirts and the summer trends example, or let's use a product page example. So let's say on your camp shirts blog article, you mentioned that let's say you have a sentence that says a professional personal shopper can be a great way to add trendy items like camp shirts within your wardrobe. So that's kind of long, but I think you get the point there. So you use personal shopping within that sentence, and it makes sense that from that personal shopping mention, you would link to your personal shopping product page. So yeah, definitely want to be as specific as possible with your anchor text. Are you familiar with anchor text?
I'm not, because that was my question. So
Okay.
like link to like other posts, like is it just a hyperlink?
Yes.
Okay.
And so your anchor text is actually going to be, let's see here. So since we already have this page up,
Uh-huh.
this page from the compass, the anchor text for this link would be, what makes a tuxedo so
Gotcha.
unique?
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So I imagine that whatever they're linking to is exactly on this topic.
Gotcha.
Yep. So,
I use that in my blog posts because a lot of times I'm like showing outfits or different things. So I link to the actual product page on other websites.
okay.
So,
Great. 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 Number 4 here, this actually doesn't require any action from you. By default, any links that you add on your WordPress website, they will be do follow. But the difference here is you're going to have links that are do follow and links that are no follow. Now
okay.
we'll go into detail about this during our session on link building, but do follow in a nutshell, it's passing link equity to that page that you're linking to.
Okay.
So when you're getting backlinks or linking to other pages on your site, you really want to focus on do follow attributes. No follow, there really aren't any situations where you will want to use no follow. I'm sure there's going to be very extenuating situations, but no follow is kind of the opposite. It doesn't pass any SEO value through that link.
Okay.
But really, that's something you don't really have to think about because by default, your links are going to be do follow.
Okay.
Okay. Now, looking at kind of this diagram here. So eternal links, those are represented by each black line here.
Okay.
And so this is just a high level structure of your website. So at the very top here, you have your home page. And then, maybe you want to have, different pages for certain target audiences.
Okay.
And then under those target audiences, you link to products or services that are relevant for that target audience.
Okay.
And then under that, you have your blog articles. So that's a great way to kind of just visualize how your site is structured. So I would recommend when you have some time doing this activity, so you can kind of see, okay, I have all of this content on my site. How does it kind of all fit together here? And yeah, these black lines here again, so these represent links that go both ways. So your product page here, it links out to blog articles, but then your blog articles also link to your product pages.
Okay.
So that's just a great way to keep your website connected and structured correctly.
Okay.
So we'll be revisiting this a few times in future sessions, but this is kind of just how to think about internal links at a site-wide level.
Okay.
Yep. Now, any questions on internal links? Okay. So external links. So really the opposite, where you're linking not to other pages on your site, but to other authority websites within your space or that are relevant to your blog article or whatever page you're working on. So best practice is try to link to only authority websites. And that's going to vary for any industry, but you're in the fashion space, which websites are considered authority.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, just do a Google search for the keyword, and it's usually going to be a website that shows up at the top there.
Okay.
So let's say maybe you're writing about, a topic that hasn't been covered in depth. So maybe there's a new fashion trend that's coming out, or it's kind of maybe it's, somewhere abroad, but hasn't quite reached the US yet. So maybe there isn't a ton of content out there on it. So maybe an authority site hasn't picked it up. So in that case, you want to just look for websites that have good writing. And there isn't any kind of objective way. When you read an article, if it was written by a native English speaker or writer, and if it's easy to read. I'm sure you've read articles that you have no idea who wrote it, but it wasn't really good writing.
Yeah.
So just do a quick kind of check on that. Another thing to look at when you're linking out to websites is the SSL certificate. Um, so the SSL certificate, you'll notice, if you ever notice, there's going to be this little padlock symbol here in the address bar. So that pretty much tells you that that website is, secure, and it is, it has an extra layer of security. So having that SSL within itself isn't a sign that it's a good website. But what does it tell you is that that website is being actively managed. For years now, Google has reported that SSL it is a factor in rankings. So anyone who's concerned with their website and concerned with the quality of the website by now should have installed an SSL certificate. So that's why, I would, double check that. Like I mentioned, do follow your external links. Ideally you will be linking out to good authority websites. So there's no reason why you will not want to use do follow. And within your anchor text, use target keywords for the page you're linking to, but try not to include the keywords that you're trying to rank for. Let's say, for example, we're linking out from your home page. And we are, just kind of going through here and doing some on-page SEO. It is not good SEO practice to link out to the page that you're actually, or link out using the anchor text that you're actually trying to rank for. In this case would be personal stylist Denver or any variation of that, because whatever text is in that anchor, it's kind of diluted. It doesn't have as much SEO benefit for you. So try to stay away from using these phrases in your anchor text. Other than that, don't stress over domain metrics like domain authority. So again, if it's an authority website, it's probably going to have a really good domain authority because it's an authority website. Or in these cases where it's, point B here, maybe these are new websites or small websites. But if it's really good content, it's a good quality website, don't let that be a reason. Don't let domain authority be a reason why you wouldn't link to it. In these cases, if a site has a domain authority of 5 in 2020, if they keep up and keep growing, they can easily have a domain authority of 50 in 2022. So yeah, just don't let that be a reason why you don't link to a site. And then, just kind of think about the sites that you're linking to kind of as a neighborhood, a link. We call them a link neighborhood. So, your site is about fashion, is about consulting. You would want to link to websites that at least have some type of relevance to that topic. You wouldn't want to link to porn websites or, sexual enhancement websites because you're not in that space. It doesn't make sense. So just kind of keep that in mind when you are doing your external links. Okay. And then moving on here, and this is something, how many links should you include? And if you ask 10 SEOs, they're probably going to come back with 10 different answers. So my recommendation would be to just keep it natural. If there is, when you're doing internal links, if there is a page on your website that is relevant to whatever you're using for that anchor text, link to it. If not, then just keep it moving. If there's a really good article out there that covers something you're talking about, but maybe they provide some data on something, or something where they've really done some good research, then link to that website. But don't just link to websites just for SEO. Just keep it natural. So with that said, that's the first part of this lesson. Before we move over to WordPress, do you have any questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. So WordPress. So we're here in just a page editor. So in this, and I'm going to write these down to make sure we don't forget. So we have page title, meta description, heading tags, alt text, and internal, external links. Okay. So let's just say I had such a good experience with training Spencer that I decided that I want to roll this out as a service. So one thing for your title tag, that's going to be governed by Yoast or managed by Yoast. So let's just say for my target for this page, it's SEO training, just to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you'll go here to edit snippet.
Okay.
So typically Yoast is going to auto-populate what's here. I would say the majority of the time you don't want to use their recommendations. So
Okay.
just get rid of those. So kind of using what some of the best practices that we discussed, what would you recommend for a title tag here?
So hold on, let me go back. Looking for my notes.
Sure, take your time.
So with it, so for title tag, you want to use exact keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So with so whatever your keywords are, I don't know.
Yeah, so one thing with Yoast, they have this basically the way Yoast works, you put in your focus keyword,
Okay.
and that's usually going to be your primary keyword for the page.
Okay.
I say mostly it's always going to be the case. So our primary keyword here would be SEO training, and then hyphen, and then maybe we use another word for training. Just so for the sake of time, why don't we just add coaching?
Okay.
Okay. And then, we can use a hyphen, we can use,
The special characters.
special characters, and then I will put my company name just for marketing purposes or branding purposes. So the way Yoast works, have you used Yoast before?
This looks familiar. I have when I've been doing my blogs, but not fully understanding.
Okay, great. So in this case, Yoast, it's going to tell you when your length, in this case for the page title, is long enough in a good, in a good place. But you notice, while we were typing it, it was red or
Right.
actually orange. And then if I just type in a bunch of stuff here, it's going to turn to red.
Right.
So
Okay.
orange means it's too short. So you probably should use that as an opportunity to add more keywords. And then red means it's too long. So, try to, always try to stay within the green. There are going to be cases where, it's just not going to be possible not for it to be in the red, but, try for the most part to stay within the green.
Okay.
And then, like you said, let's add some special characters here. So number one, SEO training. Um, if I wanted to focus on Houston, I can add Houston here and
Okay.
so on. Okay.
Is
So
there
yes,
anything wrong with putting in number one?
um, I personally don't think so.
Okay.
I do understand maybe some people they're not comfortable because maybe they don't have the experience or
Yeah.
I guess awards to line
Got
up
it.
with that. But hey, it's marketing. If you can
Right.
convince them, who cares? um, so SEO title, okay, and now our meta description. So if you're just optimizing from scratch here, one of the things I like to do is kind of look at take our focus keyword, our primary keyword, and just stick it into Google. So let's see what other people are using. Um, and so what I would usually do is just kind of skim through these. If I find one that I really like, I'll use it. Sometimes I just, combine different things from several. But just
Okay.
for the sake of time, let's just copy and paste this.
Okay.
Okay. And then, of course, you kind of just want to make it, kind of unique to your offering. So SEO online training from the top rated agency in Houston. Again, hey, it's marketing. So, if you're good at what you do, your customer won't really care.
Okay.
Um, Google SEO training course for computer or mobile. So again, we're doing online, so I'll just probably just make that online.
Okay.
And then, what's the last thing you would say is missing here?
Last thing I would say is missing there. Like a call to action?
Very good. So click here to learn more. Or maybe if I offered a free trial session,
Okay.
sign up for a trial session. And kind of similar to the title tag section. So if it's too long, this will turn red. And again, there are going to be certain pages where, you're just going to have to, it's going to be a little bit too long, but, try your best to make it green. Okay. So we got that going. One thing we didn't cover, and this is, I would be careful with this if you're modifying existing pages, because this is basically the end part of the URL. It's
Okay.
called a slug, but you should also try to include your keyword here.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So let me ask you, what we're doing right now, is this for like a web page or is this more of a blog?
so it would be for both.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use Yoast for both, and it would be the same process.
Okay. So if I'm doing a blog, the meta description, should it be about my company or should it be about the blog post?
It should be about the blog post.
Okay.
So
Keep it
yeah,
consistent.
yeah, whatever the page is about, that's what it should be about.
Okay.
Yep. And just make sure the call to action lines up with what the page is about. So for a blog post, a very generic one would be click to read more. But for one of your productized services pages, it would be learn more about this offering, or schedule a free consult, something
Okay.
like that. Yeah. Okay. So we're good there. So another thing about Yoast, we have a red unhappy face. So that means that this page, and actually, yeah. So that means this page isn't still quite optimized enough for our target phrase SEO training. Okay.
Okay.
So now let's go into the content. So we already knocked out page title. So I'll just delete it. Made a description. Okay. Now heading tags.
Yeah.
So heading tags are one important thing to know, and something I see often is that this field here is going to default to be your heading 1 tag.
Okay.
So what that means is, so let's just say SEO training for entrepreneurs. So what that means is that you'll never actually have to do this.
To do the H1.
Exactly. So you should never manually go here and use H1. Okay. So
Oh, so it's literally using those formats for H1, H2.
right, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Have you been using them kind of just for formatting?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's something common I see. But yeah, that can, obviously that's not the best way to do things. So in that case, I would go, talk to your developer, just have them kind of modify the CSS so that you are, you're using the headings for what they're meant for, and that's
Okay.
kind of set up proper SEO. Okay, so now that we have that, so SEO training for entrepreneurs. So looking at our little SEO grade here, so that moved from red to orange, so still some optimization to do here. So SEO training for entrepreneurs. Okay, so let's maybe add our first, just for the sake of time, let's just add a snippet here. So maybe we have, and typically this first little snippet would kind of be an intro
Right.
to the service. Um, and then we can do on-site or online SEO training for entrepreneurs and business owners. Okay, and so just see. So I haven't did the research on SEO training but you might have, from my experience, online SEO training will probably be a very good secondary keyword.
Okay.
Also, SEO training for entrepreneurs would probably be a good secondary keyword. But we're going to use this as a heading 2 tag. Okay.
Okay.
And then, okay. And then, just for the sake of time, we're going to have another little kind of snippet here. And then let's say, we really want this to be an in-depth page.
Uh-huh.
So, we talk about our on-site offering. So on-site SEO coaching. Okay, we can say that is our heading 3 tag. And then we're going to have our little snippet. And then we're going to have a separate section. And then I'm not sure if I made that explicit, but yeah, so we made this a heading 3.
Right.
Yep. And so then we're going to have our online SEO coaching services. And then again, that's going to be a heading 3. And then so forth and so on. What's going on here?
So when I'm writing a blog post, right, like these H1, H2, H3s, they'll show up within the blog post formatted this way, right? So
Correct.
like I literally just do the heading and then I can write text below it.
Correct. And I always recommend, I'm not sure what's going on here.
I don't even think I even realized that. Okay.
Yeah. So so you'll just start, writing your text. Now, I always recommend before hitting the publish button I'm sure you're doing this, just kind of preview the look and feel to make sure it looks right and all the spacing is correct. But yeah, you can just start typing and using those headings.
So the H1, H2, H3, well, H1 has to be at the beginning, but the H2 and H3 can it be anywhere within the document? Or does it have to follow H1, H2, H3? Or can I have H1, H3, H2, H3?
So that's a very good question. I recommend, following kind of like that order,
Okay.
because you have to think about this. If you were writing a paper, usually your heading 2 is going to be the title of a section.
Right.
Whereas heading 3 would be a bullet point under that section.
Right.
So it really wouldn't make sense to put the bullet point ahead of the section title,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Is it okay to have multiple H2s throughout?
Absolutely, and it's actually recommended to have multiple H2s and H3s.
All H3s. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so I think you get the gist there with the heading tags. So we can go on to the next part. So now for your alt text, so of course to have an alt text or alt tag, you would need to have some image in your content. So for the sake of time, I'll just take this screenshot
Good call.
and I'll just copy and paste that there. It's not doing what I needed to do, so I have to save it. Or actually, let's see here. I'm going to use one of your images. So one thing, and I'm sure you know this for images, ideally you would use your own images or, purchase like your own stock photos.
Yeah.
If you do go to Google image search and use an image there, just make sure that it's labeled for reuse. And the way you do that, if you're not familiar.
A lot of mine I pull from free stock websites.
Okay. And always just make sure if you're not buying that image that that you actually attribute it to the website, or most of those images, they're going to show you how to show attribution.
Okay.
Kind of one thing I've seen some business owners where, they don't know any better. They'll just go to Google and grab an image and just plop it into their page. So fast forward a year, they're getting an email from a law firm that they're being sued by the image creator.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely don't want to get into that situation. So, just cover your bases there. But going back to what we, the purposes of this, so assuming that we've already saved this image as, SEO coaching for entrepreneurs or something similar, then we're going to go in here to click that little pencil icon, and then we can just do SEO. Actually, our phrase was SEO training. and then SEO training, Destiny marketing solutions, and then yeah, whatever else you want to add here. So SEO training um, for business owners. I think that's good enough. And then caption, you know, again, this is a personal preference. I haven't seen where captions have any SEO benefit, but
Okay.
if you do want to do more as far as describing what's in that image, you know, you can add a description here for the caption.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, once that's saved, you know, you just hit
And then
like,
those advanced options, don't even mess with those.
yeah, I usually don't. Usually those are going to be more for the look and feel.
Okay.
So kind of getting into the CSS, but you know, if I'm just kind of doing a first run and publishing a blog post, I don't even look at those.
Okay.
Okay. So once you do that, okay. And you see our SEO still needs some work. So still actually went to red. So I'm guessing that's something with us copy and pasting that snippet over and over.
Probably, yeah.
But anyway, um, so now we need to add our internal and external links. So remember, we're trying to rank this page for SEO training.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, we definitely don't want to use that for any of our links, but, you know, since this is an agency website, you know, maybe we update this to top SEO agency in Houston. And then we can link this because this is something that we may probably will want our homepage to rank for. So we link this to our homepage. So you can kind of click this gear icon. And then what's cool here, you can just type in home. It might take a little while to load, and then there you go.
Okay.
Okay. And then kind of the same thing with external links. So for external links, I don't know if we have anything here that would make sense, but let's just say, let's see, SEO, small business stats. So let's just say to kind of beef up our page, we go out here and we grab a quick stat, okay?
Uh-huh.
So maybe we add an extra section here that says why is SEO important for small businesses? And then we can say SEO can have the following benefits according to, and who are these guys? Linchpin SEO. To Linchpin SEO. And then, yeah, we can just copy and paste it. So in this case, it's almost like I'm citing my source, right?
Right.
So, and then kind of fix their formatting a bit. And then we can actually link to their page so they get some benefit from that as well. So one important thing, I didn't mention this before, and I actually didn't do it for the internal link, but always check this tab to ensure that when they click the link, it opens up in a new page, but it's not causing any engagement issues as far as bounce rate, as far as time on page for the current page that they're on.
Okay.
So that's definitely a best practice. Always open a link in a new tab, and then boom, there you go. So our SEO is still showing red. So, you know, once you kind of go through some of these steps, you know, I would come in here and just kind of see, you know, what else is it
You can't
complaining
click
about?
on it. Okay. It gives you
Yeah.
a position.
Yeah. So key phrase density, you know, it's definitely important that you include your phrase in there. But it looks like it's actually complaining that it's there too much, which is obvious because we copy and pasted the same thing
Right.
over and over again. It's also saying that the content isn't long enough, so it's recommending 300 words.
Okay.
So both of those things, I'm sure you understand. Yeah, just make sure that you're meeting those requirements. And then the exact match of the keyword phrase appears in the SEO title, but not at the beginning. And that's very good. So I decided to add the number 1 here just to
Right.
kind of give it, you know, make it a little bit more enticing for clicks. But kind of your, you know, bare and bones SEO would be just to have it like that.
Okay.
And that should have, let's see, I have Houston in there. So SEO training, that should have fixed that. So, yep. And so
Okay.
that's pretty much it. Quick optimization of a blog post or a page.
Yeah.
So, any questions there?
No.
Okay.
So I guess I'm curious, like as a whole, so if like a business owner comes to you and they've had a site for a couple of years, right? And they're like, hey, can you help me improve my SEO?
hmm
Do you go through all their blog posts and do all this?
That's a great question. So, my first step would be looking at their Google Analytics. So,
Uh-huh.
let's say it's a site that has 1,000 blog posts.
Uh-huh.
So, that's a lot of pages. Obviously, I would go to Google Analytics and first see what are the pages where they're getting any type of conversion activity. So even if it's like someone lands on that blog page and then they go to the product page, with Google Analytics, you can actually track which pages are leading to those multiple touch conversions. So that's the first thing
Okay.
I would look at. The second thing I would look at is the traffic. So I'm really only concerned with pages that are getting, some
Okay.
organic traffic.
Makes sense.
And for anything that's not, I typically just filter it out
Okay.
and just prioritize based on conversions, based on traffic.
Okay.
So if you're providing this for Alpha Graphics business owners,
Yeah.
typically I would do like the top 20% in month one,
Okay.
then the second 20% in month two, and so on till you're
Okay.
finished.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. I'm like loving this. I hope you know that. Like
Okay.
I am geeking out over this. I think it's so cool.
Okay. I'm glad it's helpful because I know sometimes I can get very long-winded. So,
No, I'm big time.
okay, great.
FYI, we got 15 minutes. Just want to do a time check.
Yeah, and I think yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to save some parts for next time.
Okay.
But let's try to get at least through the basics of the technical SEO. Um, so technical SEO pretty much boils down to a few bullet points here.
Okay.
JSON LD schema, so that's the structured data. So structured data, JSON LD schema, those are kind of used hand in hand interchangeably.
Okay.
But basically, this is a special snippet of code that gives uh, search engines and web robots more contextual information about your website and the
Okay.
actual content that's on your website. So I'll get into that more in detail here in a bit. The second bullet point here is your robots.txt file. And this is basically tells Google, the Google bot or the Bing bot or any search engine, okay, Google, these are the pages that I want to have crawled on my website. And so situations where this would be important. So let's say if you have like a customer portal on your website, and obviously those pages really aren't relevant if you're not a customer.
Right.
So you would not want those available to the public. So what you would do is tell, hey, Google, in that robots.txt file, do not crawl these pages because they should not be showing up in Google.
Okay.
And there's a special kind of syntax you would use that we'll go into here in a bit, but that's really what the robots.txt file is for.
Would that be used for that loft page that I had? Like
Yes.
specifically people don't crawl that?
Yes, so that's one way to handle that. What I would recommend is actually, since you don't have since it's a completely different like industry,
Right.
maybe one thing, if you have like a local friend who's all still in doing real estate,
Uh-huh.
maybe just having it redirect to his site, since it
Okay.
has nothing to do with what you're doing now. But typically what you would want to do is just redirect that page to another relevant live page on your website.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Because I went into Google Search Console to like remove it just so it
Uh-huh.
didn't even show up, but it wasn't working. So I have to just look at it again. But
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So robots.txt file is basically telling Google which pages to review or not review. The sitemap is somewhat similar, but it's basically telling, okay, Google, here's a map of my website. This is all the content links that are there. and this is how I want you to crawl and index it. So
Okay.
we'll get into that a bit more here in a bit. So these are the common types of JSON LD schema. So you have organization schema, person schema, local business, product, breadcrumbs, article, video, and event schema. There are others, but this is probably the most common implementations.
Okay.
For White Shoes Consulting, I would think organization schema, you definitely want to include that. Person schema, if you wanted to kind of put your personal profile kind of as the face of the company, then
Yeah.
person schema would be very important for that.
Okay.
Local business schema, this is something, since a big part of your audience is in the local Denver area, you would definitely want to incorporate that. Product schema, absolutely. You want to incorporate this on all of your productized services pages. And then breadcrumbs, article, and if you do have video, incorporating that as well.
Okay.
Now, event schema, I don't, unless you're doing a event, it's really not relevant. And breadcrumbs, this is usually going to be already built into most WordPress themes, but you can check the structured data testing tool to see if it's showing up. And I'll show you how to do that here in a bit. So just some quick examples. So I pulled some examples from Alpha Graphics.
Uh-huh.
So let's zoom in here a bit. That's where it actually zoomed out. Okay. So
You're good. I
this,
can see it decently.
I'm sorry?
I can see it fine, so you're good.
Okay, great. So this first section here, that's a organization schema panel.
Okay.
So usually organizations that have this showing up here, they're going to be fairly large organizations. So they definitely have like a brand presence online and offline. So you'll see that here on the right-hand side. So I believe I did a search.
Like within the Google search.
Yeah, if you put it, put that into Google search, you'll show that on the right-hand side. This second example, these are breadcrumbs. So as you can see, looks like it's pulling, for what's relevant to me locally.
Right. Okay.
So local schema. And this example is with Tina Fey, but it's like a example of article schema from the New York Daily News.
Okay.
Other examples, so video schema. So if you're using any videos, you'll see this showing up in the search results. And you've probably seen this where it's kind of like a little thumbnail of the video.
Yeah.
So that's video schema in action. Product schema, and I think this will be somewhat relevant for you. Maybe not the in stock, but kind of more information about your product, like the pricing, would be very important. So this is actually from eBay.
Okay.
And then, of course, I had to include Mr. Trump here, but that's going to be your person schema.
Okay.
And if you ever do like kind of research about historical figures or entrepreneurs, you'll see that pop up there.
Yeah, Wikipedia net. So
Yeah.
okay. Cool.
Yeah, so it's just some best practices for schema. Just make sure that depending on the type of content you have on a page, that you're using the appropriate type of schema. So if you have video, if it's a blog article, make sure that you're using the article schema or the blog schema.
Okay.
Check out your competitor websites to kind of see what they're doing. So I did a quick search for, I think it was the Sandy Mail. No, actually, no, that's not it. Maybe I closed it on accident, but let's just do this real quick. Denver personal fashion or personal fashion stylist. Nope, not over here either. So you can I think we were looking at Sandy Mel the other day. So let's just use her as an example. So the tool, it's called Google Structured Data Testing Tool.
Okay.
So you just Google that, it'll come right up. So just click through there. and then just plop that URL in there.
Okay.
Let's see what type of schema they're using on their homepage. So they're using organization schema, local business schema, and website schema.
Okay.
So kind of, going back to, one of our tactics for the keyword research, I would compare this to your homepage to see, okay, if she's using schema types that you're not, then it's probably a good idea to include that schema type on your page. Okay. So that's the first step. Just recognizing, identifying which schema types that you need.
Okay.
Second, and kind of going back to the data testing tool here, you want to see if you have any errors or warnings. So in this case, you would plug in your URL, and you see here she has some warnings here. So whoever is managing her website, they need to go in and kind of fill in this information because it's missing.
Okay.
So just kind of be aware of any errors or warnings. Now going back, using plugins. So number 4 here, I would say since you are on WordPress, I recommend using either a plugin to kind of automate this for you or using a schema generator.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example of a plugin, but I included a link here to a schema generator. So we go back to that page we were working on. Plugin I enjoy using, it's very easy to use. It's called the WP-Seo Structured Data Schema.
Okay.
And pretty much all you do here is, figure out which schema types to use and make sure you click enable and just fill out all of the fields. And it's really that simple. Traditionally, if we didn't have this plugin, we would actually have to use a schema generator.
Oh, so that's like at the bottom of like a blog post.
Right.
And then I would go through and pick the schema.
Right, but you have to make sure you install that plugin first. Otherwise, yeah, it wouldn't show up. So I think I closed that schema generator. But yeah, I did link to it. So yeah, if, let's say if you're using a website platform where you can't use plugins, then you would use a tool to basically generate the snippet for you.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So so I just threw my website in that structured data testing tool, and it comes up with web page, WP header, creative work, site navigation element. So like nothing.
Okay. Yeah.
This makes me even question further how my site was developed.
Yeah. So those sound like those are typically schema types that are in a standard WordPress install, or I should say a WordPress theme install. So I wouldn't, yeah, that's good that they're there, but kind of going back to what I was saying, kind of doing that analysis with your competitor, I would definitely try to incorporate the schema types that she's using.
So are you only able to do the schema type with that, what is it, like the widget or whatever?
The widget.
Not the widget, with the, I don't even know what you call it, like on this side, the WordPress, like whatever. What is this on the left-hand side?
The plugin?
Yeah, plugin, that's the word.
It's not the only way. So, since you asked, let me see if I can find that for you. Yeah, I closed it, but JD Flynn Schema Generator. The reason why I do recommend plugins because it's a lot easier, a lot faster. Okay. But let's just say, I use this guy's Markup Generator. So basically, yeah, you'll just come in here, and this is just one tool. There are a lot of them out here like this. Now you'll pick the schema type. As you can see here, he doesn't have every schema type here. Okay. And then you would just fill in the information for each field.
Okay.
And then, what it would do once you hit, as you fill it in, so let's just say, I think it populates this dynamically. Let's just say White Shoes Consulting. You see here on the left,
yeah,
it started just adding that snippet,
okay.
automatically. So that's the second option. The third option, if you have a developer who's really just a whiz at this stuff,
Uh-huh.
he could probably build it manually, but it's obviously not the most efficient way.
So once I get that code
Mhm.
right there, where do I put it?
Yep. So that's another good question. So once you get that code, so then you would go back here to your page,
Huh?
and then you would add it here. So I just always add it here at the top.
Oh, so it can go anywhere.
Yeah, so important thing to know, you won't see this
Right.
on the visual side. Yeah, for some reason it gives you this little box, but you're not going to see that on the front end.
Okay.
But yeah, this script basically tells WordPress that, hey, this isn't any visual content, but it should kind of just run in the background.
So I should do that for every page that I have.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, one thing, if you're going to have, there are going to be certain schema types that should be there site-wide. You're going to go and add this same snippet or the snippet for that schema. You're going to go and add that to your header and footer files. Now,
Okay.
I highly recommend this for this step. And to get there, you would go to Appearance, and you would go to Theme Editor.
Okay.
Let's just open it so you can see it. Um, so you would go here, and definitely not to discourage you, but I highly recommend, unless you're comfortable working with code, to have your developer do
Yeah.
this part, because if you go in here and it could be as simple as an extra bracket or something,
Yeah.
and
That'll.
you can break up your break your website. So it is best to have like a developer to do this step.
So how important is it to do the schema?
That's a good question. So kind of what you mentioned about the featured snippet. So what did you mention? Remind me. If we have like let me try to Google that again. Top 10 summer fashion. So just as a reminder, why did we say it was important to do feature snippets here?
Because you get a lot of real estate.
Exactly. And it's really the same for schema. Um, so it's all about standing out here on this search engine results page.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think. I think we had yeah, how to wear cufflinks was a good one.
Yeah. So like the schema tells Google, hey, this is a blog post.
Hmm.
This is this type of thing. This is that. And then it helps with this stuff, with the snippets.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so for this case, I know we're at cutoff time.
Yeah.
YouTube, this is automatically going to pull, but you'll notice here, so this guy or these guys, CW House Menswear,
Uh-huh.
so they have a video on their page. They marked it up with video schema, and now it's here at the top of the search results.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's just all about kind of bringing more attention to your page.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
The site needs a lot of work. I'm realizing going through all this.
Yeah, and that's why you're doing the training, so you
Love
at
it.
least know kind of what needs to be done.
So I'm thinking of like how I apply this to alpha graphics, but if I go to an owner's website,
Hmm.
and a lot of this stuff I probably can't do on their basic, but on their blog site I can because they have
Right,
WordPress.
right.
But I just need to make sure that we're either downloading the plugin, um, or making sure there's just something there to identify, like, hey, every time you post a blog post, make sure you're marking it as a blog.
Right. So yeah, I think kind of thinking how you can standardize this.
Yeah,
Blog posts, hopefully all of your owners they're blogging. Yeah,
yeah,
so okay, when you blog, add article schema. Now you mentioned that some of your owners they they might be a bit more advanced, so they're doing a bit more with their marketing. So it might be difficult to kind of standardize something, for your more advanced users. What I would maybe consider or recommend just having, okay, if you want to use an article, use this schema. If you want to use a video, use this schema. And then, having kind of like I guess, I don't know another way to say it, kind of like a cheat sheet. Okay,
Uh-huh.
this is what you need to do if you're using this type of content on your page.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, what other questions do I have? Schema is a big one. That plugin, what does that cost?
So I forget the cost of this. I think I bought it kind of as a package so I could use it on multiple websites.
Okay.
And that was a few years ago, so I can look that up and get back to you. But yeah, it's a fixed price, so it's not like one of these where you have to
Oh,
pay
you buy
every
it
year.
once and it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Okay. Because they
yeah.
have on here, let's see. Just looking. There's the download, but I don't know.
And from what I remember, to add on to that, from what I remember, you do get kind of volume discounting with
Okay.
this plugin, and most plugins, paid plugins, will offer volume discounting.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah, it says right here, single site $49, 5 sites $99, and then developer unlimited is $200.
yeah, so if that's
Okay.
something, yeah, you will want to use developer for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, for the alpha graphics.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But if they're doing it on their own ish, then we'll just do a single site.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, Nick. I'm sorry.
Is this a good stopping point?
Yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. Yeah, we went a little bit over, but yeah. So I will again, like I mentioned, share that folder with all the resources. I do have a few homework assignments that I kind of want you to take a look at over the next week.
Yeah.
And yeah, our next session, we can pick back up from where we started. Now, remind me, I think I got this right in the calendar invite, but are we restarting on the 1st?
On the 3rd.
On the 3rd. Okay, good
So
to
the
know.
1st, there's nothing, but the 3rd and 5th you have scheduled out. So Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, good to know.
Perfect.
Good to know. All right. Well, thank you, Spencer, for your energy, and hopefully this has been helpful.
It has. Thank you.